Hi everyone, thank you for joining me. My name is Kassandra and this is the Body, Mind, and Soul New Year's Intention Setting class. So this is a little bit different from the other practices that I have here on my channel. This is meant to help you process the previous 12 months and then set your goals and intentions for this coming year. We're going to structure this in 3 parts: body, mind, and soul. So the first part of our time together, focusing on the body, is going to be our yoga practice. So this is going to start off as a very heat building, activating yoga class, and then moving into some slower, deeper stretches. And this first part of the practice is really a reflection on the past 12 months. Everything that went well for you, also all of the challenges and hardships, whatever it is that you need to process, to let go of, and also to recognize and honor. The idea is to listen to our body's inherent wisdom through this yoga practice to make it a little bit easier for us to then move into the mind and soul portion of the practice. The mind portion of the practice is for clarity. So given what we've gone through over the past year, let's use this clarity and this insight. We're going to chant mantra together, and then we'll move into the soul portion of the practice, which is all going to be about setting our vision and our intention for the coming year. And this is going to be a meditation. So yoga practice, a little bit of chanting, and then some meditation at the end. I do recommend having pen and paper somewhere close by. When we're done our practice, I would love for you to take some time on your own just to freehand journal and write out, what it is that you're processing and letting go from this previous year, so 2024, and then also what is your intention moving into 2025 and the coming year. The yoga practice itself will be suitable for all levels. I am not using any props, and like I mentioned, we're going to activate and work and build up some heat, and then we'll go into some stretches. Okay, let's begin in wide-legged child's pose. Big toes together, knees as wide as you would like them to be. Pressing the hips back, stretch your arms out in front of you, and just melt down. Really find a space of grounding here. Sliding your shoulders away from your ears. And finding some heaviness in the pose. As we flow, try to maintain a connection to your breath as it moves in and out through your nose. And really use this time to go over the previous year. What stands out to you? Perhaps there was grief and hardship, challenges, things that you want to honor, but also process and move through. Perhaps things you want to let go of or leave behind and not carry through with you in the next year. And there might be some positives, of course, some wins and successes and high points that you want to celebrate and remind yourself of so that you can call in more of that next year. We'll come up onto hands and knees, tabletop. We'll just take a few rounds of cat and cow. Fingertips spread wide. As you inhale, drop your belly, lift your gaze, tailbone up. Exhale to reverse, round, contract. And just keep going here in and out of those 2 poses. Finding that balance and symmetry with the inhale and the exhale. The symbolism that we get of the yin and the yang, the positive, the negative, the success, the failure. Not favoring one over the other, but really learning to embrace both. Finding that symmetry in our body, in our breath. Last one here. And now coming to a neutral tabletop pose, draw your lower belly in. So really activate and strengthen through your core. We're going to lift our right arm up. I have my elbow bent at a 90-degree angle. And then at the same time, I'm going to lift my left leg out in this little fire hydrant pose. So my left knee and my right elbow move out. And then I'm going to bring it back to midline to hover. And let's just do that a few more times. So inhale, squeeze and lift. Exhale, bring it back. Engage through your core. So right away, building up that heat, trying to find that balance and that symmetry. Even when things get hard, get challenging, we want to stay anchored in our breath, staying committed to ourselves. Take 2 more. Last one, maintaining a flat back. And now this time, go ahead and stretch that right arm and left leg back. Take an inhale. You can drop the belly a little bit here as you lift, and then exhale, round and contract. Just 3 more like this here. Twice more, inhale. Last one. And release. Take a few hip circles here. You can make this as big or as small as you'd like. And we'll reverse in the other direction before we go into those fire hydrants on the second side. Really connecting to this foundation, staying grounded through all fingers and knuckles, coming back through to neutral. So realign, draw the lower belly in, keep your lower back flat. The left elbow is going to open out to the side, trying to stay at shoulder height, finding fire hydrant as you lift your right knee up, trying to get it at hip height, and then exhale, hugs into the midline, stay hovering here. And just keep going. Really feel that stability and foundation through your right shoulder and your left hip, while we try to find fluidity of motion through our left shoulder and right hip. And I really want us to work on this theme of balance and symmetry, not just in our bodies, but also as we reflect over the previous year. Take a few more here. Last one. And then go ahead and reach left arm forward, right leg back, stretch. Exhale, round it in. 3 more. Last one. And release. Let's find those hip circles again. Just releasing. And we can reverse. Really churning and processing. And quieting through the hips. You can walk your hands slightly forward past your shoulders. Let's find our first downward facing dog. Tucking the toes under. It's our first downward dog. So I'm actually going to widen my feet towards the edges of the mat. And I'm going to bend my knees so that I can instead focus on reaching my chest towards my thighs, lengthening out through my arms, lifting the tailbone up even higher. Relax your head, relax your neck. And if there's something that really comes to mind that you want to let go of and leave behind in 2024 or in the previous year, I want you to visualize it here. And we're going to take 3 cleansing breaths in through the nose and out through the mouth with a big sigh. So really symbolic of this letting go. So let's inhale. Letting it go. Twice more. This is my little foster cat, Scarlet, joining us on the mat. Find a more neutral downward facing dog so you can bring your feet hip width distance apart. Let's reach our right leg up towards the sky. Bend your right knee, open up your hip. As you exhale, tap your knee to your nose. Come forward into plank. 3-legged dog. Inhale, stoking the fire. Exhale, squeeze it in. Inhale, lift it up. Exhale, squeeze, look past your hands, step that foot forward, drop the back knee down into this low lunge. My knee is on top of my ankle. And you can maybe choose to keep your hands framing that front foot. I'm going to do a different version here where I'm going to lift myself up, work on lengthening the tailbone down, stretching up, and then pressing the hips forward and down. Hands can stay on the hips, or you can reach your arms up, maybe bringing the palms together as you gaze past the thumbs. Find a lift through your heart. Really stoking this inner heart fire. Let's release the hands, frame the front foot, and we're going to lower down to our belly. I'm going to do a modified version of chaturanga, so keeping my knees down as I lower. And let's just find Sphinx pose from here. Slide your forearms out in front of you and open up through your chest. Push into the tops of your feet. Roll your shoulders back. And I'm adding quite a few heart openers in this practice. We're sending love to that version of ourselves of the past 12 months. Everything that you've gone through, everything that you've overcame. Tapping into the energy of forgiveness, of compassion and empathy for ourselves and for others. And let's release, press back, downward facing dog. Tuck the toes under, lift your hips up and back. And we'll go and do the same thing on the second side. This time, left leg rises, bend your left knee, open up that hip, push into your right heel. And we'll tap our knee to our nose, shift forward into plank pose, shoulders over your wrists. Inhale, 3-legged dog. Exhale, squeeze it in. Last one, inhale. And exhale, look past your hands to step that foot through, drop your back knee down. So option 1 is to just hold in this version of your low lunge. Otherwise, you can lift up, lengthen tailbone down, draw the lower belly in. And think of almost squeezing your shoulder blades behind you. Maybe the arms come up as you press your hands together and shift your gaze up. Always coming back to the breath. Stretch out a little longer. And framing that front foot, we'll come back down onto our bellies. So I'm just doing a little modified version of chaturanga here, sliding the forearms out in front of me into Sphinx pose, finding that little heart opening pose again here. Roll the shoulders back, pushing a little bit into the pubic bone so that we're reaching our tailbone towards the heels. And really noticing, what's the first thing that comes up, that comes to mind when you think of this past year. And just holding space for that without judging. And let's release, pressing back, downward facing dog. From this downward dog, let's reach our right leg up to the sky. Keep it straight this time, and we're going to step up into our high lunge. So right foot goes in between the palms. Make sure your feet are hip width distance apart here, rather than being one in front of the other. I'm going to bend a little bit into my back knee so that I can keep my hips under my shoulders. And then I'm just going to reach my left arm up, keeping the right hand on the hip, adding a little bit of a side bend as I reach my left arm up and over, really reaching out through those left fingertips. Coming all the way back up, you can bring your hands to your hips to help with balance. Let's just step up to the top of the mat. You can keep your feet hip width distance apart. We're going to do that little cactus shape with the arms, and then find a little back bend here. Open through your chest. And releasing into our tree pose, Vrikshasana. Stand on that right leg. Bring your left foot somewhere to the inside of that right leg. Lifting up tall. Ooh. Finding your balance, take your time. Maybe the hands stay at the heart, or you can grow the branches of your tree by reaching the arms up. I like to think of root to rise when I do tree pose. And this can also really fit into our theme. We root down by focusing on what grounds us, what nourishes us, what supports us, and what has supported us over the past 12 months. And we use this to rise. This rising energy, really tapping into what we want to become, what we want to call in and cultivate, and finding that balance between the two. Let's bring our hands back down through the heart. Release the legs. Keep the feet a little bit wider than your hips. We're going to interlace our hands behind the lower back. Shrug your shoulders back. Open up through your chest, and then dive down. So you can definitely bend into your knees here as you reach your knuckles up and over. Relax your neck and your head. Release your hands down towards the mat. Turn your heels in, toes out. Find Malasana, your yogi squat, bending into the knees. Hips come down. You can bring your hands together at the heart, using your elbows to push those knees open a little bit wider. Lengthen and reach up through the crown of your head. Into our downward dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. Plant the palms, step the feet back. And you can take a flow if you'd like from here. Inhale to plank pose. Chaturanga, either all the way down, or you can modify the way we did in our first flow. Finding our back bend here. Exhale, downward facing dog. And we'll repeat this sequence over on the second side. Left leg rises. And step through into your high lunge. Make sure your feet are hip width distance apart here. As you lift up, pushing evenly through both feet. Keep a little bit of a bend in that back knee so that you're not tilting forward, but staying straight. Left hand stays on the left hip. Right arm reaches up and over. Side bend here. So even though this is not a back bend or a like a back bending pose, I'm still trying to get you to open up through the space of the heart by adding these different kinds of poses. So lateral flexion, these side bends, really think of stretching through the side of the rib cage. Coming all the way back through to center, hands on the hips, step forward to the top of the mat. Into a little back bend here, bending at the elbows, squeeze your shoulder blades behind you, lift up, keep the elbows up high, and releasing tree pose, vrikshasana on the second side. So you're standing on your left leg this time, bringing that right foot somewhere along the inside of that leg, wherever is appropriate. Focusing on external hip rotation here, and really push your supporting leg into the foot. This will help with stability. It also prevents your foot from slipping down. And you can choose the variation with your arms. So root to rise. Another way to think about this is, what do you want to focus on from the previous year that nourished you and supported you, that helped you stay rooted? And how do you want to bring that through in this coming year to help you rise and activate and grow? We'll bring our hands slowly back down. Release the legs, step the feet a little bit wider than your hips. Interlace your hands the more unusual way, so you have your other thumb on top. Squeeze the shoulder blades behind you. And again, we're trying to open up the space of the heart, even with this kind of pose. So find a little bit of a lift and then dive down as you reach the knuckles up and over. Release the hands, malasana, into our squat, heels in, toes out. Sink down low. I'm using my elbows to help push the knees open a little more. Pressing the shoulders away from the ears, coming back to the breath. Into our downward facing dog, step the feet back and either hold your down dog or take your vinyasa. Inhale to plank, exhale chaturanga, upward facing dog, downward facing dog. And let's get into some hip openers now. So you can reach your right leg up to the sky, bend your right knee, open up your hip. And we'll come into our pigeon pose. So the right knee will go behind the right wrist. Stretch that leg out behind you. And we're trying to evenly distribute our body weight through both sides and both hips. And maybe you want to work on just holding, staying up high in the pose. Otherwise, we're going to fold down. And we'll be here for about 10 breaths. So really take the time to get yourself as comfortable as possible so that you're not fidgeting, or it doesn't feel like you can't breathe deeply. If it feels like you're pushing against the ground or struggling against the pose, then you've just gone a little bit too far into it and can ease out slightly. And this is really an invitation to just send some love to yourself. Whether you've had a fantastic year or a really challenging one, it's all worthy of being acknowledged and cherished and honored. Take 3 more breaths here. And you can start to lift yourself out of the pose. Rather than going to downward dog, we're going to come into a little twist from here. So you can just rock onto your right hip in order to bring that left leg out in front of you. And we're going to cross left foot over the top of that right thigh. You can hug that left knee in towards your chest, maybe wrapping your right arm along. Left fingertips can go back as you open your chest and twist. Try not to slouch or round. Stay lifted tall. And releasing from the twist. Now let's find our downward dog and we'll go into pigeon pose on the second side. I'm not taking a vinyasa here. I'm just stretching out in down dog. So this time, left leg extends up, bend your knee, open up your hip, and then you can carefully place that left knee behind your left wrist. Reaching that right leg further back. And just notice where there might be tightness and tension. We're not forcing ourselves into the shape we think we should be doing. We're really listening to our body's cues, only folding down as is appropriate to you. This is also why we start with the body portion in this practice. There's so much wisdom, there's so much that our bodies know and are trying to communicate with us at all times. So our practice can be a really great way to learn to tune into that messaging and to really practice that deep listening. You know, what is your nervous system experiencing and trying to tell you? What do you feel in your heart? What do you feel through your hips? Where does tightness and tension live in your body? And just holding here. Three more breaths in the pose. And we can start to lift ourselves up. We'll come into a seated twist On the second side, half Lord of the Fishes pose. So you're rocking on your left hip in order to bring that right leg out in front of you, crossing the right foot over the top of that thigh. I'm gonna hug my right thigh with my left arm, and I'm using this as a mechanism to also lengthen my spine. Right fingertips behind me as I twist open to the side, drawing that lower belly in. And release into your downward facing dog. This is our final downward dog. Stretching everything out, reaching out long. And you can just bring your knees down to the mat, sit back onto your heels, bring your fingertips back behind you. Just one last little opener for the chest here. So high up onto your fingertips, bend your elbows and think of touching as if you're trying to bring your elbows together to touch, squeezing the shoulder blades behind you, and then at the same time, lifting the heart up. And release. Just bring your hands on your lap. Close your eyes. So we're closing this first section of the practice together. When you think of the previous year, what is it that you want to process and let go of? And we won't be doing Shavasana right now. Our whole meditation will be done in Shavasana at the end of class. We'll be moving into the mantra, the mind portion of the practice. Before we do this, if you want to just very quickly grab pen and paper, if there's something on your mind, what you want to process, what you want to let go of from the previous year, write it down quickly. And so for the mind portion of this New Year's intention setting workshop, we're going to chant Gayatri, and we'll be chanting that 9 times. I chose Gayatri mantra because it is one of the oldest mantras, but it invokes the radiance of our being. When I think of Gayatri, I think of almost like a request for clarity. So as we're closing kind of the chapter on the previous year, now we're using this luminal in-between space. We're like in this space of transition between previous year and the one coming. So now is a time to really ask for clarity on where it is that we want to go, what it is that we're calling forth, what we want to focus on over the next 12 months. And I want to read you, I have it noted down here. There's a translation of the Gayatri mantra that I really like by Douglas Brooks. And I'll put this on the video, but I'll just read it to you here since I wrote it down. So the eternal earth, air, heaven, that glory, that resplendence of the sun, may we contemplate the brilliance of that light. May the sun inspire our minds. Gayatri is a, solar-based mantra, and that last line is really why I wanted us to chant this together. May the sun inspire our minds. Gayatri really calls upon this infinite light of consciousness that guides our actions and beliefs. So we're going to chant this together 9 times. And again, I'll put the words on the screen so you can follow along. If you're not familiar with this mantra, you can also just listen if you're not used to chanting out loud. That's fine as well. But that's really what I want you to be focusing on and tapping into. May this light of consciousness guide us into our thoughts and into our actions. May it illuminate and inspire our minds. Okay, so you can sit in any way that is comfortable to you. I'm just going to stay sitting on my heels because that's comfortable for me. rolling the shoulders back, and we'll take a cleansing breath, and then we'll move into the chant 9 times. So inhale. Om Bhurбhuva Swaha Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Na Prachodayat. Om Bhurбhuva Swaha Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Na Prachodayat. Om Bhurбhuva Swaha Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Na Prachodayat. Om Bhurбhuva Swaha Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Na Prachodayat. Om Bhurбhuva Swaha Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Na Prachodayat. Om Bhurбhuva Swaha Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Na Prachodayat. Om Bhurбhuva Swaha Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Na Prachodayat. Om Bhurбhuva Swaha Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Na Prachodayat. Om Bhurбhuva Swaha Tat Savitur Varenyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Na Prachodayat. Stay here in this space for a few breaths. We'll be moving into our meditation for the soul part of our practice. If you want to write something down quickly, now is the time. You can gather whatever you need to get cozy as we recline in Shavasana for a little while. This will be more of the guided meditation portion of the practice, to focus on what we want to call in over the next 12 months. So I'm just grabbed my blanket here so that I won't get too cold as we lay down. And really take your time to find this final resting pose in a way that is comfortable to you. You can always prop yourself up. And you can, of course, choose to do this sitting in a seated meditation instead of reclined. You can put an eye pillow or something over your eyes if you find lights distracting. Just take these first few breaths to settle, to get comfortable. The first part of our practice, focusing on the body, was a reflection of the past 12 months. The second portion for the mind was an invocation for clarity to better guide our thoughts and actions for these next 12 months. And now this soul portion of our practice is to really get in touch with what matters to you. Not what other people want for you or what other people expect from you. Not what you think you should want or should care about. But really tapping into your soul essence. And very simply, I'll just ask simple questions and you can answer them in your mind. Usually in meditation, we go for an absence of thought or a clearing of thoughts. But here I want you to instead allow yourself to go deep into that space where you can really listen to the answers that are already within you. So we'll have 3 simple questions, and then I'll leave you in silence for a few minutes to just absorb those answers without guidance. Beginning with this. In 2025, my body needs, and fill in the blank. In 2025, my body needs. Moving on. In 2025, my mind needs, filling in the blank. In 2025, my mind needs. Moving on. In 2025, my soul needs. In 2025, my soul needs. Filling in the blank. And now let go of the answers. Let yourself come to an internal point of silence and stillness without thinking too much. Just let yourself rest deeply for a few minutes here in Shavasana. And I'll let you know when it's time to come out and reawaken. Deepen your breath. Waking ourselves up slowly and gently. Maybe stretching the arms up overhead or moving any way that feels good. We'll just be coming to take a seat. You can keep your eyes closed as you do this. Sitting up here and getting comfortable. And with your eyes closed, resting the hands on the knees. So given what we've been doing over the past hour or so, body, mind, and soul, when you think of the coming year, when you think of the answers you are giving, when you are contemplating what your body, mind, and soul need in 2025, can you choose a one-word intention that captures the essence of those answers? A one-word intention that captures how you want to feel in 2025, what you want to focus on, and what really matters to you. And if nothing comes to mind, please don't worry. Maybe if you journal after this class, you'll gain more insight. It might come to you over the next few days. But if you have your word, we'll set this intention together. Let's all bring our palms at the heart. And we'll close by chanting Om one time. With this one word intention in your heart, let's inhale to chant. Breathe in deep. Thank you so very much, everyone, for doing this extra special intention setting class. I would love to know if you have a one-word intention. You can certainly share it with us in the comments, but I would love to know what you thought of this format and this kind of class. It's different from what I usually teach the bulk of my classes here on YouTube and inside my app, but I do think the New Year's is just a really special time, of introspection and dreaming and visualization. So I would recommend, taking some time, probably right now when it's still fresh in your body, fresh in your mind and in your heart, to just journal, whether you want to journal and reflect on the previous year, or you want to journal and start to think about, in 2025, what does my body need? What does my mind need? What does my soul need? Without judgment, just free flow write it. And again, if nothing, came to you throughout this practice, don't worry. Sometimes we need to mull things over for a little bit. Maybe when you go to bed tonight, in the morning when you wake up, you might have a little bit of a fresher perspective, some new ideas, some new energy, a word that comes to you. So just be open to receiving that over the next little bit, over the next few days. And I hope, no matter what kind of year you've had, I hope you have a really wonderful new year. and that you find that balance and that symmetry. And yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for doing this class with me. I really do appreciate it. Please do subscribe to help support free yoga on the internet. And hopefully we'll be practicing together on a regular basis in the new year. Thanks, everyone.